You are about to meet the most important living person. And let me tell you a secret. That person is not far away. He is closer to you than your own shadow. He is with you right now, listening to these words. He is waiting for recognition. And once you recognize him, your entire life will change. Now stop for a moment and ask yourself, who could this most important person be? Think carefully, because if you miss this, you might miss the greatest opportunity of your life. The truth is this: the most important living person is you. Yes, you, and I say it with absolute certainty, because within you lies the power to determine whether you rise to the top or remain at the bottom. But let me make something very clear. You carry with you at all times an invisible talisman. On one side of this talisman are written the letters PMA, positive mental attitude. On the other side are written the letters NMA, negative mental attitude. Now here's the secret you must not forget. Whichever side you choose to turn upward will decide the course of your destiny. One side attracts wealth, health, happiness, and success. The other side repels all these things and robs you of every joy that life can offer. Pause and think. Which side are you showing the world today? Because right now, your future depends on that choice. Most people drift through life unaware of this talisman. They complain, they blame circumstances, they surrender to defeat, and they never realize they have been carrying the master key all along. But those who discover this truth transform themselves instantly. They become unstoppable. They rise above circumstances. They choose to live with PMA, and the world begins to yield to their desires. Does this sound too good to be true? Then let me prove it to you with a real story, a story that will open your eyes. I want you to meet a man named S.B. Fuller. He was not born into privilege. He was not given wealth, and the world did not hand him easy opportunities. In fact, he began with fewer advantages than most of us. He was the son of a poor tenant farmer in Louisiana. His family accepted poverty as their destiny. The children of such families went to work early, without hope, without vision. But one thing made Fuller different. He had a mother who refused to believe poverty was the will of God. Stop here and let this sink in, because sometimes a single voice of belief can change an entire destiny. Fuller's mother said to him, "We are poor, not because of God. We are poor because your father never developed the desire to become rich. No one in our family has ever developed a desire to be anything else." Now listen carefully, because in this simple statement lies the secret of every failure and every success. Desire is the starting point of all riches. Without desire, nothing happens. With desire, everything becomes possible. Young Fuller absorbed his mother's words like fire in his soul, and he decided that he would not accept poverty. He chose to develop a burning desire to become rich. Pause again. Ask yourself right now, have you developed that burning desire for your own dream, or are you drifting? Because if you do not decide, life will decide for you. Fuller decided that the quickest way to riches was to sell something. He chose soap. For 12 long years, he went door to door, selling soap to strangers. Imagine it, day after day, rejection after rejection. Yet he never gave up. Why? Because he carried the talisman of PMA, and every knock on the door was a step closer to his dream. And here is the moment where most men fail. They let rejection break them. They let the no of others turn their talisman to NMA. But Fuller refused. He kept his mind on what he wanted, not on what he didn't want. Do you see the lesson? Success does not come overnight. It is the reward of persistence fueled by desire. After 12 years, an opportunity appeared. The company that supplied him with soap was being sold at auction for $150,000. Fuller had saved $25,000. Through sheer discipline, the contract demanded he pay the balance of $125,000 in 10 days, or he would lose his deposit. Now imagine yourself in his place. You have worked for 12 years, saved everything you could, and now you stand on the edge of greatness. But you are still $125,000 short. Would you dare to risk it? Most people would quit. But Fuller's talisman was shining with PMA. He went to businessmen, to friends, to loan companies. He persuaded them one by one. And by the 9th day, he had raised $115,000. But he was still $10,000 short. The dream was slipping away. Now here is where the story takes a dramatic turn. That night, exhausted and desperate, Fuller fell to his knees and prayed. He asked God to lead him to the man who would provide the last $10,000. And then he made a decision. He would drive down 61st Street until he saw a light in some business office. That light would be his sign. Think about that for a moment. This is the power of faith in action. When you know what you want, the world conspires to show you the way. At last, late in the night, he saw a light. It was a contractor's office. Inside sat a man Fuller barely knew. Boldly, Fuller asked him, "Do you want to make $1,000? The man said yes. Fuller replied, "Then write me a check for $10,000, and I will return it with an extra $1,000. Can you feel the audacity? The courage? The burning belief that would not be denied? The man listened, checked the facts, and before the night was over, Fuller walked out with a $10,000 check in his pocket. He had won. This was no miracle. This was the power of PMA at work. When S.B. Fuller walked out that night with the $10,000 check in his pocket, he did not just carry paper. He carried the proof that desire, backed by faith, creates miracles. And here is where you must listen closely. Miracles are not accidents. They are the result of definite principles. Fuller's victory was not about money alone. It was about the invisible talisman of PMA. He had turned it upward, and the world could not resist his determination. Now ask yourself, how many times have you turned your talisman to NMA, letting fear, doubt, and excuses rob you of opportunities? Because each time you do, you are walking away from your fortune. Fuller went on to gain controlling interest in not just one company but 7. He owned cosmetic companies, a hosiery firm, a label company, and even a newspaper. And yet when asked about his secret, he pointed back to his mother's words. "We are poor, not because of God. We are poor because no one in our family ever developed the desire to be anything else." Stop right there and let this lesson echo in your heart. Desire is the seed of wealth, and without it, nothing grows. Think about this. Fuller had no inheritance, no privilege, and no promises. But he had one priceless asset: the choice to believe he could be rich. And that is the same choice you must make today. Will you continue to drift? Or will you ignite the fire of desire within yourself? You see, success is never reserved for the chosen few. It belongs to the ones who choose themselves. Now here's something powerful to remember. Fuller admitted he did not know how to achieve his goal at first. He only knew what he wanted. So what did he do? He filled his mind with inspiration. He read the Bible. He studied Think and Grow Rich. And he devoured the secret of the ages. Why is this important? Because when you know what you want, your mind becomes alert to opportunities. It is like a radar scanning the world. And suddenly, everything you need starts to appear. Have you ever noticed how, when you buy a new car, you suddenly see that same car everywhere on the road? The truth is, those cars were always there. But now your mind is tuned to recognize them. The same law applies to success. Fuller tuned his mind to wealth, and because of this, he saw chances that others ignored. Let me give you the real secret. Riches begin not in the bank, but in the mind. And yet, here is the danger. The same mind can also be tuned to poverty. If you focus on what you don't want, you attract more of it. If you keep repeating, "I can't, I can't, I can't," then life will agree with you. So I ask you right now, which frequency are you tuned into? Because your life will always echo the channel of your thoughts. Fuller's story proves something undeniable. Success is a matter of attitude. Not birth, not background, not luck. Attitude. But do not misunderstand me. Desire without action is only a dream. Fuller knocked on doors for 12 years. He endured rejection, fatigue, and doubt. Yet every step was guided by the talisman of PMA. Now pause and ask yourself, are you willing to pay the price of persistence? Because persistence is the bridge between desire and success. Let me remind you, millions want success, but few are willing to endure the process. Fuller endured, and in return, he achieved. And the same principle applies to you. Perhaps you are thinking, but my life is different. My struggles are unique. My chances are few. My friend, So were Fuller's. But let me tell you the truth. Your excuses are nothing compared to the power of PMA. If a poor boy from Louisiana could rise to control corporations, then what excuse remains for you? The greatest prison is not poverty. It is a negative mental attitude. Listen carefully. Your circumstances may explain where you start, but they never excuse where you end. Fuller carried his talisman with PMA turned upward. And what happened? He transmuted daydreams into reality. But here is the part most people forget. Success is not only about money. Not everyone would want to be an industrialist like Fuller. Not everyone would pay the price of running companies. For some, success is building a family filled with love. For others, success is mastering a craft, serving people, or creating beauty. Do you see? The riches of life are not always dollars. Riches are the things you value most, the things that make you feel alive. So ask yourself now, what do you truly desire? Not what others tell you to want, but what your soul burns for. Because here is a fact you must engrave in your mind. You can achieve anything that is not against the laws of God or society. If only you choose it with desire and pursue it with PMA. Your life is not a rehearsal. It is the real performance. And every day you delay your decision, you are writing a script of mediocrity. But if you decide today to turn the talisman of PMA upward, you will discover a power that cannot be stopped. Remember this. Success is achieved and maintained by those who keep trying, by those who never turn their talisman to NMA. So I challenge you now, will you meet the most important person living inside you, or will you ignore him for the rest of your life? The choice is yours, and your future hangs on that choice. My friend, consider the weight of a single choice in life. One decision can turn a man from obscurity into a legend. S.B. Fuller proved this truth when he chose not to surrender to poverty, not to bow before circumstances, and not to accept the judgment the world tried to place upon him. Every time life whispered, "You cannot," he replied with action that shouted, "I will." Does this not stir something deep within you? Does it not ignite a fire that asks, "What if I too can refuse to quit?" Each obstacle he faced was a test of endurance, and each test became a stepping stone to greatness. Fuller knew that wealth is not found in coins but in courage, not in possessions but in persistence. And the world took notice of a man who carried this philosophy in his every step. Do you see the lesson? The world rewards not the complainer but the overcomer. It crowns not the doubter but the dreamer who dares to act. When others mocked his ambitions, Fuller smiled with the serenity of one who knows his destiny. He had already shaken hands with his future in the privacy of his own mind, for he realized that the most important, living person was not some distant celebrity or wealthy figure, but the man looking back at him in the mirror each morning. That realization is your gift too, if you will claim it. Imagine the power you will unleash when you decide that you, not another, are the author of your fortune. Pause and reflect. How many men live and die without ever meeting themselves? They pass through life as shadows of their environment, reflections of other men's opinions, slaves of circumstances they never challenge. Fuller broke that chain, and so can you. Will you choose to drift like a leaf on the stream, or will you command the current of your own destiny? This question is the hinge upon which your future swings. Fuller's rise was not only about personal wealth, it was about responsibility. He taught others to dream bigger, to step higher, to shake off the excuses that keep millions imprisoned. He employed men and women, gave opportunity where none existed, and proved that success is never selfish when built upon service. What greater truth exists than this? The man who uplifts others multiplies his own fortune. Yet, my friend, beware, for the path to greatness is paved with distractions. Fuller himself faced them. Temptations to settle, to compromise, to blend in with the mediocre. But he resisted, for he knew that compromise is the silent assassin of greatness. Do you hear this warning? Every time you shrink your vision to satisfy comfort, you bury a part of your destiny. Will you settle for crumbs when the banquet of life waits for your courage? Remember this. Poverty is not merely the absence of money, but the absence of belief. Fuller changed his environment because he first changed his belief about who he was. He carried himself with dignity long before riches adorned his life. and the world simply reflected back the image he insisted upon holding. Could it be that your fortune waits for the same shift in your own thinking? Every empire begins in the unseen. Fuller's empire began in the conviction that he deserved more than his birth offered. He planted that conviction deep in his subconscious, watered it daily with action, and protected it against the weeds of doubt. And in time, that seed became a harvest that fed multitudes. Have you planted your seed? Or are you still waiting for the soil of circumstance to improve? Take heed, for the soil is ready the moment you decide to sow. Let me speak plainly. The excuses you make today are the shackles that bind you tomorrow. Fuller refused excuses even when they seemed justified. He had every reason to surrender: poverty, prejudice, lack of connections, and 1,000 unseen barriers. Yet he chose to see only reasons to try, to fight, to persist. Tell me, what is your excuse? And more importantly, what will you do with it now that you have met the spirit of a man who defeated his own? This truth cannot be repeated enough. The most important living person is you. Not your neighbor, not your employer, not the man whose name shines on billboards, but you. For only you can unlock the treasure chest within your heart. Only you can discipline your thoughts, direct your faith, and demand that life pay what you have earned. Others may inspire you, but they cannot live for you. Others may guide you, but they cannot act for you. The responsibility rests squarely upon your shoulders, and within that responsibility lies your ultimate freedom. Look around you now. Every invention, every fortune, every empire was once the idea of an individual who dared to believe in himself. Fuller stood as living proof of that law, and his life echoes the truth I have declared for years. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. The question is not whether the law works. The question is whether you will apply it. I ask you, will you let this moment pass as a mere story, or will you claim it as a turning point? For stories are forgotten, but decisions shape destiny. This is your call to action, your reminder that greatness demands commitment, that abundance bows only to persistence, and that life itself waits to serve the man who has mastered his own belief. You must choose, as Fuller chose. You must declare to the world and to yourself that failure is not your master, that poverty is not your destiny, and that mediocrity is not your name. You must stand tall, even when the ground beneath you trembles, and declare, I am the most important living person, and I will prove it by the life I build. Do not be deceived, my friend, into thinking this truth belongs only to Fuller. It belongs to every man and woman who has breath, who has thought, who has the courage to dream and act. It belongs to you at this very instant. Will you claim it, or will you cast it aside? Let this truth grip your spirit and never let go. The world may try to distract you with doubts, to drown you in mediocrity, to whisper that you are small, but you must shout back with the thunder of action. I am great, because I choose to be. This is the spirit that lifted Fuller. This is the spirit that can lift you. And as you rise, never forget. The true measure of success is not in what you gain, but in what you give. Fuller gave opportunity, dignity, and hope to others. And in doing so, he cemented his legacy. What will your legacy be? Will you leave behind a trail of excuses or a testimony of triumph? The answer lies in your next choice. So I leave you with this challenge, the same challenge that life placed before Fuller, and the same challenge it now places before you. Will you step forward as the master of your destiny, or will you remain a prisoner of doubt? The choice, my friend, is yours, and in that choice, your future awaits.